A lot of you have said that we should try and save this Go Devil block, and that's exactly what we've tried to do. We've had to deal with an extremely stuck valve, a stuck lifter, and all the pistons were seized in here. Let's see if we've managed to clean it up and whether we'll be able to use this block going forwards for the World War II Jeep. Let's dig in. I've done some preparation to save us all some time. I've got videos where you can watch me undo every single bolt painstakingly slowly. This doesn't need to be one of those. So I'll just let you know what I've done so far. I have numbered each one of the piston rods. They're on there, and I've done that with an engraver, and I've also put the direction in there. They are sided, but I've put the direction in so I can see if one of these was put in wrong to start off with. I have marked the bearing caps, both with numbers and with what engine it's come out of. This one I call the LL engine, so I've got LL on all of these. I've undone the camshaft retaining bolts. I have freed up the pistons by pouring anti-seize in when it's the other way up, and leaving that for almost a week, soaking through, and then tapping them gently around the outside edge to loosen up the rings. I also ran a little bit of a hone down just to clear out some of the rust. Everything seems to be a lot freer now, so we should be able to see what's going on. I'm going to do 1 and 4 first, and then move the crank back a little bit. You have these bolts that stick out here. This particular engine stand doesn't have a lot of space between here and the back of the block, so these can foul them. So I'm going to do everything I can here and then move them back, and I've just got just enough rotation to be able to do that. I have other stands that have more space, but they were being used for other things at the time. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. This bearing is in really good condition. Slight line there. Everything else is, not going to complain about that at all. Because this is numbered, I can put it over there without worrying too much. This is number 4, and same story. Good condition, tiny little bit of pitting, but they're fine. They would run for years and years. Ooh, that's already freed itself. I decided to lift down there. Again, these are brass, so it doesn't damage that bearing surface. But you shouldn't drop your pistons. I've got a pig mat down there just to catch them. That is codron bolt. See what we can see. So the rings are rusted in. You can see how they're springy there, not springy here, and they're just rusted slightly into the grooves. They will come out pretty easily in the ultrasonic bath. Just about 40 minutes in there will free those up. Nothing super scary on that piston. We're going to splash out. A new rag. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's savable. And there's the other side of that rod bearing. really good condition again. I'm going to put that there. Put that down as my piston catcher. Rod bolt. Watch me put this in the wrong way around. Oh, I left the good rag on the table. So far, all the bearings are looking good. These rings, this is on cylinder 1. So that rotates freely, still springy. That rotates, so does the oil ring. Very little scoring. That's a really good piston. Very happy with that. So I'm going to use the dead blow now to rotate this crank back, just on the counterweight. Enough. Oh dear. As far as that's going to go, so it'll be a wrench on those. Well, that wasn't a sensible way of turning that round. Wonder if I can do it from this side. Another good bearing. Yeah, this side might be easier to get to the tools. It is not easier to see what I'm doing. So 3 doesn't want to move too well. Let's get this one out for right now. Are we going to be stuck? Yes. Okay. Goes up against there. I'm going to try and punch this connecting rod bolt out. I don't know if I've got enough room, or whether I'm going to have to lift the crank out to be able to free these up enough to move them properly. Okay, it's a little victory. Well, they just mint these. I'll tell you what I haven't done yet, and I need to, and that is, I won't do this because I'm not using them again. See if there's a date code or a size. So this says CF23M STD. STD obviously is standard. So this hasn't been undersized. I don't know what that date code is. But if anybody else does, please put it in the comments. Oh yeah, no wonder that was bouncing around. Okay, that's really good. I thought when I was using the dead blow on it, it was very, it was bouncing, and it was because it's completely free. So the binding was all coming from the pistons. So let's pull the camshaft out, which arguably I should have done earlier as well. Okay, let's take the camshaft out. Try not to damage the bearings, although I will put new ones in. Come around here with it, where I should be anyway. This will have to be measured to be sure, but I'm not seeing anything super scary about that. No significant wear or scoring. That looks like a really good one if I stop banging it against the crank. Take the shims out. That shim's got pretty chewed up. Let's see if we can pull this crank off, make our lives a little bit easier. Main bearings, mint, perfect. Really good. Right, have we got an oversize on these? So these say CGB, Charlie Golf Bravo, standard. So again, it's a completely standard crank with T23M. If that is a date code, again, if you could let me know in the comments, I would be eternally grateful. I like the date codes when they just give you the year and the month. I feel like it's a simpler system. Really nice. Perfect. As this is my engine and not a customer's, I'll be tempted to run those again, they're that good. This is going to fight me a little. Not long enough. All I want to do here is rock it backwards and forwards with the brass drift, just to free it up a little bit. I believe these, some of them are asbestos, so bear that in mind. This isn't, that's rubber. I wonder when they went to rubber. And I could be thinking of a different engine and all. You have to bear in mind I take a lot of engines apart. So maybe they always used rubber in the back of these, but I thought the early ones were like an asbestos fibre type. Oh, you hate me. Come on. I really would like this to come out. It would slide out a lot easier, but it's not going to happen. You can see it's free. This isn't really that bad, but if I've got one that's super, super bad, I will tend to take it over to my hoist and lift the crank up and use the crank to pull them out. This just requires a little bit of patience, that's all. There we go. And if my doctor asks, I definitely did not get out of breath doing that. Yeah, here we go. So, bearing is fantastic. Rear main seal is not so great, but that's not a massive surprise. Again, rubber. This crank looks Really good. Might be one of the best cranks I've got. I was hoping that we'd have a really clearly understandable date code on those bearings, so I would know whether this has been rebuilt. There's a few little signs that make me think it has. So down here we got the lifters. Now, I print these for lifters. I have a different shape and size for every engine, really. I will put a link to this in the comments at the top, and you can print these out. They work really well. This one I don't think will come out because that was the seized one. But you just slot them in, and it means you can keep them all in order. And there's an arrow on the front there, so you don't get confused. And if you have some obscure engine that you would like one of these for, a model, I did the model equation driven, so I can just put the hole size in. Just let me know how many, the diameter of the hole and the depth, and I'll knock your model out and link it to you. Super quick to do. I have in here a stuck valve still. It's amazingly stuck. Don't forget to take these out if you can and put them somewhere very safe. We are going to have a job getting those out, because we always do. I want something plastic, especially as these bearings are so good. These ones you can pop up from underneath, like so. And when you're pulling them out, don't force them. They should just come out really, really easily. And if not, crunching on them with the pliers isn't going to help anything. You're just going to ruin the dowel. Okay. Another, you'll find also bearings caps. 2 and I think 3, what was that? Yeah, and 3 have those as well. 1 does not. So if you end up with an odd number of dowels, don't freak out, it's pretty normal. That is going to have to be tapped out, but first, let's see if we can get this out. Bearing is fantastic, not much play. That would be a piston rod bolt. Okay, so look at that, rings are still really good. Yeah, super happy. I'm going to grab the bolt before I forget it. Right, let's take this piston out. Yeah, that's not as easy, I think. I wanted to do it by hand, but it's not having it, so. Brass drift time again. helps if you put the hole over it. This is one of the ones that was very well stuck. Oil control ring is moving. Second ring is not. It's rusted in there. First ring is very, very rusted in there. But no really significant damage to the piston. Although, there's a little bit there of it's around the outside edge. That could actually just be where I've been tapping it, and maybe there was some debris in the end of, I was using an aluminium drift on that, and it could have been some debris stuck in the end of it or on the top of here that just caused that, but we can deal with that. Little dents aren't a big deal because you're not changing the weight of the piston, and it's not significant damage in any way. If you can push those dents back in, keep the piston in the right weight range, rather than moving material, you're golden. Okay, that one was, just before I forget, 3. These are the numbers I was telling you about. They nearly all have them. And they'll not only tell you which piston cap goes with which piston, but they'll also give you the orientation if it is something strange. A lot of the time the tabs go together, but not always. A steel Lexus light, see if we can see down the bore a bit more. That one you can see a little bit of surface rust. They could be worse though, couldn't they? I'm going to turn this over. For the people that complain I don't have enough close-ups, I hope this is close-up enough for you. You can see valve number 5 is very unhappy. It's very stuck in there. The seats aren't that bad, considering. Let's see if we can get you some light. They will grind in okay again. This I'm going to have to punch through from the other side. You can see here where there's rust. It's not really terrible. The top here where it's shiny is where I ran a hone to try and clear some of the rust out so I could take the pistons out cleanly. And that there is a wear ridge. And a lot of the time when I'm boring cylinders, I will clean this top part up and then use that for my centering, because that is the original bore without any wear whatsoever. So once you take the carbon off it, which tends to protect it, you can get a really good center from there. And the rest of the bore, you have to get almost right down to the bottom before you get to good untouched bore again. So as strange as it sounds, as long as somebody hasn't been in there with a ridge reamer, this is a really useful indicator for finding center. And you can see there's wear here, but as clear as that is, I can barely feel it with my fingernail. So it'd be interesting to see what this would look like after a proper machine hone. Maybe take tooth out. I could still be in OEM spec, and these may come good. They may not as well. I wouldn't have thought it would need to go more than 10 over though. I'm not seeing anything really that scary in these. Because this rust is here, but it looks like surface. I can't see really significant pitting except maybe a tiny bit in there. But again, it does look very surfacey. So I'm pretty happy with that if I can get this out cleanly. But first I'm going to try and get this lifter out here. This is just a thin brass drift I made for when I'm doing valve guides. I'm going to see if this is going to be enough. I'll be real careful not to hit that seat. But I think that has just cleared it. So we're going to turn it upside down, try and knock this out again. So all change. Right, that's the lifter. I'll put that in its slot. I don't think I properly showed you all the lifters at once. But again, there's some wear there, but I have seen way worse. Let's see if we can persuade it out with this. The power of brass rods. Very bent. Significant amount of wear. You can see it because it curves in like this, instead of being just completely straight. This damage here I did trying to get it out, but it was just rust really. I think this block is good. I'm going to turn it the right way up again, and then I'm going to run a hone through it just to see if some of that rust cleans up, because I'm curious now. I won't do much because most of the hone I want to do in the proper honing machine rather than doing a hand hone, but oh, I hate this stand. You can see the dark patches, and because I've run the hone down and the hone isn't a spring hone or a dingleberry hone, it's an actual stone hone that press fits, it's pretty straight. So you can see that anything that is dark or rusty looking is a low spot. And you can see the wear ring there, that's the top point that the rings come up to. Now I'll get in and measure all this. Depending on how deep they are, it might be that we can just put this onto the honing machine and machine hone this out and still keep it within factory spec. That does sometimes happen. If not, it's going to have to be bored, but probably not more than 10 thou. It needs new guides though, and the seats need dressing at the very least. And we'll deck the block and relieve them around here just to give us that little bit of extra power.